Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Living with Parkinson's Symposium 2020. This is Power Moves, Exercise for Brain Change. My name is Patricia Wessels. I'm a physical therapist at Mind Body Physical Therapy in Baltimore. I am a certified Power Moves physical therapist, and I also am the head coach of Rock Steady Boxing, MAPS at Charm City. Today we're talking about power moves, PWR. It actually stands for Parkinson's Wellness Recovery. And you can find out a lot more information at the website pwr4life.org. It is the brainchild of Dr. Becky Farley. She's a PT, Master of Science, PhD, and she is the person who took the LSVT Loud program, the one that amplitudes voice and has shown to be effective for improving the voice volume and communication for people with Parkinson's. It was her work a couple of decades ago that pushed that idea toward gross motor patterns. So she is the person, the researcher, the scientist behind the LSVT Big. She went out on her own though. For those of you who have done the LSVT Big protocol, you know that it is very fastidious. It is, 4 times a week for 4 weeks, doing exactly what the repertoire says with the hierarchy skills, and then daily practice forever. That is all rather rote. And something about that made her want to explore more. And so one of the things I love about the PWR program is that it is really user friendly. You can take from it what you need. You can use it in a variety of ways to really tailor and individualize this exercise programming. So the mission statement for Power for Life, the organization, is to develop and implement worldwide access to cutting-edge Parkinson's disease specific neuroplasticity exercise programs that hold promise to slow disease progression, improve symptoms, restore function, and increase longevity and quality of life. And one of the things I love about this program is that they make it really accessible to people with Parkinson's. There is a book that you can get on how to do it. There are a lot of videos online. It's all open source and shared. So let's get into it, shall we? We're going to start with a little bit of the science. It's all about neuroprotection and neuroplasticity. You've heard it before. Exercise is medicine for people with Parkinson's, and it has to do with these 2 principles. Neuroprotection is the effect that may result in salvage, recovery, or regeneration of the nervous system, its cells, structure, and its function. Exercise can drive your nervous system to protect what is still left of your dopaminergic system. And neuroplasticity, the capability of the central nervous system to adapt itself in response to both internal and external stimuli. It's the way that neurons can actually alter their structure and their function to cope with the environment they're presented with. And what's really great about neuroplasticity is it means your brain is capable of change. That's the whole second statement of Power Moves, right? Exercise for brain change. What we're trying to drive with this program is skill acquisition or reacquisition. In the best case scenario, we practice these skills so that we never lose these skills. They're all sort of the seeds of movement, as you're going to see in a few minutes. But first, a little more research. This is from Dr. Farley herself and her co-author Hirsch. Deficit-targeted intensive training may confer neuroprotection and thereby slow, stop, or reverse the disease, the progression of the disease, or promote neurorestoration through adaptation of compromised signaling pathways. That sounds like a lot, but this is really what it's all about. Deficit-targeted, meaning that the moves you should do are the ones that you find challenging, or the ones that relate to the movements in life that you are having difficulty with. Training has to be intensive. Whether it's from PWR or what you do before PWR, you need to get your heart rate up. It needs to be aerobic. You need to sweat, you need to breathe heavy, you need to feel a little tired and fatigued at the end of the exercise to really be able to harness the benefits of neuroprotection and neuroplasticity. And finally, there was a really great review of the literature just published in the spring of this year. And it was literally a meta synthesis of everything that exists to date for both the animal model and the human model. And the bottom line was really, really clear. Brain function and structure can be altered in a positive direction after an exercise period. What I think is important here is that the results don't necessarily last. It's not like you can do something once and forever get the benefit from it. Exercise needs to be a regular part of your life. You should be exercising most days, if not every day, in order to keep your nervous system happy and healthy. So, a little bit more. This is my favorite, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. We think that this is the mitigating molecule that makes the neuroplasticity and the neuroprotection really sort of happen. One doctor called it miracle grow for the brain, because when this chemical gets released with intensive exercise, it gets released both in the nervous system, in the brain itself, and it gets released in skeletal muscle. But the skeletal muscle BDFN doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier very well. So we have to get it from the stuff in the brain in order to sprout those new neurons and to give that protective effect to the neurons that still exist and to the cells that make our dopamine. But brain-derived neurotrophic factor has been shown to promote neuroprotection and neuroregeneration in the animal model of PD. BDNF enhances the survival of dopaminergic neurons, improves dopaminergic neuron transmission, and motor performance. It also seems that an increase in this molecule is linearly associated with the intensity of the exercise. So the harder you work, the more of this is going to be manufactured and dispersed through your nervous system and your skeletal muscles. And that's a good thing. You want more. So you have to work hard. Here we go. What you do for exercise matters. You have to do vigorous aerobic exercise. If you joined me last weekend and Coach Lynn, then we talked a lot about this, about how hard one needs to work to get these benefits. And I'm going to say that the Power Moves program might be able to give some people that sort of vigorous effort. But more likely, this program fits into skill acquisition and reacquisition. And I think that that's really where it makes sense. For me personally, with the boxing program I teach, I use Power Moves in the warm-up, and I very often use them with core on the floor or with movements after the intensive exercise in order to help stimulate these skill acquisitions. And they're basic skills: rolling in bed and bed mobility, being able to sit to stand or stand to sit with ease, being able to stand and reach in all directions, maintaining your balance and your postural stability, being able to walk and turn, and really important is being able to transfer from the floor back up to standing or vice versa. Some of these moves are on the floor, and I think floor work is one of the best things that people with Parkinson's can give themselves for skill acquisition. So what kind of skills? Well, we kind of hit them, right? Agility. I'm sorry, this graphic's a little blurry, but we're going to go right around it right now. Agility, being able to transfer, being able to pivot, to turn, to change direction without losing balance and with good confidence. Your gait, being able to walk at various speeds and with nice stride length and good posture. General strength, you will find that this repertoire does tax some of your movement systems and does feel like a little bit of a workout depending on how you use it. Flexibility, I love the spinal stretch in this. A lot of the moves open the chest, open the rib cage, open the hips, all the places that we want to keep mobile. ADL and function. I think of this program as being like the seeds of movement. And if you put a couple of them together, very often you realize, oh, those are exactly the two moves I need to, say, get out of the car. Or that's exactly what I have to do to scoot to the edge of the bed. So very important for just activities of daily living. Balance is challenged, particularly in the standing and in the quadruped. You'll see that in a few minutes. You can add in things for fine motor, including reaching and grasping. It adds a complexity to this repertoire. And do this aerobically. Depending on how you time it, you can get your heart rate up. And lifestyle, being able to be confident in how to move, so that you're able to go out in the community and be around people and not feel embarrassed or not have a question about can do A, B, or C is super important to our quality of life. And I think that power moves afford a really great opportunity to practice all the seeds of movement that can make you have great function. So there are basically 20 items in this repertoire. The whole program is just 20 items. There's always modifications up and modifications down to make things more challenging or to ease it off a little bit, a little too much. The 4 moves are up, rock, twist, and step. We'll go through each of them together. And each of the moves is done in one of 5 positions or all 5 positions. Prone, which is laying on your belly. Supine, laying on your back. Quadruped, where you are on hands and knees or all 4s. Sitting, which we're going to play with today. And standing. Here they are. I know it looks like a lot. Take a deep breath. Okay, we're starting at the top. You'll notice that the arrow leads you over for the power up, right? So the up moves are all about getting your spine opened up, right? Get the next line, the rock. Rock is really about rocking your weight, shifting your weight to one side of your body, unloading the other side so that you can transition into something else. Twist, which is really important. Twist is the plane of motion, right? That is generally first lost in people with Parkinson's. It's the reason that some of you may have been diagnosed because your doctor noticed that you weren't swinging one of your arms, right? If the body's not twisting, you don't have that swing. And so twist, it's part of everyday actions for reaching around the world. It's something that we really need to drive home. And finally, step, it's locomotion, either from laying down or from kneeling, from sitting even, or from standing. It's how we move ourselves in the world. So these are the seeds of movement. We're going to take it line by line for a minute and talk about what those components each look like. All right, first up is the power up. This is all about posture, all about alignment of the body. Its goal is to counteract the stooped posture that we too often see in Parkinson's, right? We have to strengthen up the muscles that live behind us and let open the muscles that are in front in order to maintain good posture. It can really help with decreasing rigidity. You'll see that some of these actions, particularly in the sit, get a lot of hip mobility playing into them. And when our posture is good, we're going to reduce our likelihood of falls. Being stooped forward in space keeps our center of mass too far forward over our feet. And that's when the small steps start in, and that's when we start going too fast for those steps and risk a fall forward. So that's the work of the power up. Take a look down at the bottom. When we're on our belly, the power up is all about lifting the trunk up, letting the upper spine extend and letting the arms bear a little bit of weight to hold. If you want to make that really hard, you take the arms out and try to maintain that stance. When we're laying on our back, the power up is about lifting the rib cage up to the ceiling. Pressures through the head, the arms, the heels, the butt stays on the floor, but all of those spinal extensors are working to push your body weight up against gravity. Quadruped is one of my favorites for this. It's a nice big open chest, nice long hip flexors, balancing on the knees, and being able to control descent when we make it back down to hands and knees. The power up and sitting is what all of us do each time we move from sit to stand. There's a forward shift of the weight and then a backward up with a nice open chest and the tallest possible spine. And that's the same thing with the power up in standing. It's really just a glorified squat. The part that's not shown on this is the part where you go down in a squat and then you come back up to this nice ready position, ready for the next thing. The power rock is all about weight shifting, being able to transfer your weight to one side of your body, to unweight the other side of your body, to make that next move. Its goal is to improve turns and rolls. Being able to reach takes a lot of weight shift. It encourages a wider base of support than you may normally use, but that provides for better stability. It's a great place to practice. And it's really useful for people who get stuck, for people who have freezing episodes. Being able to find a little weight shift is sometimes one thing that can unlock that freeze and help you take that next big step. Trunk rotation is what the twist is all about. We talked about this just a moment ago, that transverse plane motions are the first ones that seem to go quiet and get a little lost. They take a lot of strength, and a lot of flexibility is garnered from this series of power moves. And if you use it with rhythmic repetition, it's really great at decreasing the rigidity and improving transitional motions, including, again, rolling in bed. Look at those first two down there, right? That's kind of what's happening. Getting in and out of bed and getting in and out of the car are really the functional strategies that are practiced in the twist. Move into the next one. The power step. It's just what it sounds like. It's all about locomotion, transitioning, being able to, if you notice when you're on your belly, unweight. Oh no, let me go back. Let me go back the other way. There it is. Being able to unweight one side of your body to move that arm, then that arm gets to dig into the ground so that you can propel yourself forward or sideways. Same thing when you're laying on your back, being able to move a leg, but then the part that's not shown is shifting the rest of your body over into that new plane, that mobility. The quadruped one is one of my favorites of this repertoire. Super big stretch for the hips. And if you practice without your hands on the floor, really great for balance and stability. If your hips aren't quite flexible enough for this, there are great modifications where you have a chair ahead of you to help lift up the torso and still get some of that great thigh and hip action out of it. The power step in sitting is what we need to do every time we get in and out of the car, or every time we move from a booth, like at a restaurant. And then the power step in standing, a nice big change of direction with a weight shift into that leg, with a reach, a nice big stretch, and a good place to propel from with a turn. All right, so if you were in the other one, you've seen this slide before, and I know it, but if you're gonna try to change the brain with exercise, there are a few key points that you're looking for in your repertoire. One is intensity. You have to feel like you're pushing beyond your self-selected threshold. You have to feel like you're working a little bit harder than you want to. And if we're talking about rate of perceived exertion, RPE, which is a scale that goes from 1 to 10, with 1 being really restful and 10 being, I can't do this except for another 10 seconds, we want to work in the 4 to 7 range for most of our exercise. Even in this repertoire, you're looking to get into that 4 to 7 range with your effort in order to make it really, really great for your brain plasticity. Specificity. It should target your particular deficits. It should challenge you as well as your overall fitness level. You should feel like you're working your strength. You should feel like you're practicing endurance, and it should take into account your personal goals. If you know that you're getting stuck in bed, then the floor work is probably a really great place to go. If you know that the idea of getting on and off the floor feels scary and you don't want to lose ground, that is probably where you need to be working. If you know that turning and stepping is a big hassle, standing is probably the place that you need to be spending some of your time and effort. The whole repertoire is great. But you get to pick out the pieces that are suited for you and your capability and suited for you and the conditions that you want to improve. And like I said before, I think a great place to put these in is after your aerobic exercise so that you're really working on clean skill acquisition. Difficulty and complexity. When you're doing this, you should feel like it requires some concentration and it keeps your attention. And maybe that's because there are so many details that you can focus on. You can focus on the feeling of the hands and the feet and where your eyes go. You can focus on your breath with each motion. Or you can add other layers of complexity, like, every time you move your right leg for a thing, you're going to count by one number, but when you move your left leg, you're going to count by another. You can add complexity by thinking through number or word games as you're trying to keep all of the big amplitude and all of the big effort and all of the attention to detail. Finally, it should feel kind of salient. It should feel meaningful if you can find that. Again, if you think about your goal as being you want to be able to sit to stand without having to always rely on that big push, then try to make it meaningful when you're working on the power up and when you're working on the skill acquisition there. If you can make it fun and social, that's even better. I know in the COVID world, it's a little harder, but like I said, at least in my Rocksteady, I bake these right into the rest of the repertoire and everybody gets to play together when we do these. So moving on again. We're gonna try some power moves in sitting. So I'm gonna pause the video for just a second, and when I pop back in just a moment, I'm gonna be set up in a nice sturdy chair. I'm gonna be somewhere where my feet can hit the floor. I'm gonna caution that if you wanna participate at home, and I encourage you to, please make sure that you are not working through pain and not working through any lightheadedness. And if you know that you're not cleared by your physician for exercise, hang out and watch, don't participate, maybe do the counting. But otherwise, be safe and try your best to follow along. All right. So the first time through these power moves in sitting, we're going to take it slow and appreciate all of the action and try to find the stretch that exists in these. So I'm set up in the first half of my sturdy chair. Feet are firm. Knees are just a little bit wider than my hips. I'm going to lift my posture and I'm going to widen out my collarbones. I'm going to lift the crown of my head in space and I'm going to stretch my hands out nice and big. Get that full stretch through all fingers. I'm reaching down and open right here. The power up in sitting is hands on knees, lean forward. You can keep your chin a little tucked. Notice that you have a little bit more weight in your feet now, a little less weight in the tailbone, and then pull yourself back up, stretch the chest open. Beautiful. Forward with a long spine and back. Stretch open, stretch tall, pull your belly in. Feet are equal on the ground, right to left. Lean in, get a little further, feel where stretch lives. Pull back up and out, grow tall and reach the arms open and back. Fingers are wide and lean in and reach it open and back. One more time, power up. Simple. Now we're going to take it to the power rock. I'm going to lean one elbow on my knee. I'm going to stretch my arm all the way up to the ceiling. I'm going to take a nice big breath up here and really reach the middle finger up to the sky. I'm going to pull my trunk back into the neutral line, all the way to tall, and then lean over on the other side, stretch the arm up, look up, take a breath and reach, and pull. Even without adding the leg, I'd like you to appreciate now that your weight has rocked all the way over to the side on which your elbow is leaning. Very little weight on the other side. Pull up, grow tall in the middle, and then arc over, reach up, look up, take the breath. And pull. We're going to add the leg now. So as I lean over, I stretch this leg long and away. I reach the arm up, and now the stretch isn't just in the shoulder, but it's all the way armpit to hip. You might even feel a little inner thigh stretch. Pull back up to midline, bring the knee back and bend, put that foot firm on the floor, anchor through the elbow, lean, stretch the leg.
Just a second.
And pull all the way tall in the middle, rock. Take a breath, stretch the hand wide, reach the shoulder up, leg is long, arm is long, trunk is long, pull. And rock. Stretch and reach the leg and arm. And pull. Taking it into twist. We're going to have the arms stretch open wide, like I'm trying to touch the walls across the room. Nice parallel lines to the arms. Shoulders aren't up here. They are down in my back pocket, collarbones wide. Again, spine tall. I'm going to find twist. I'm going to connect my thumbs, my fingers. I'm going to stretch my arms long, and I'm going to reach my spine up to the sky. And then open back. Hit this stop in the middle with purpose, and then take it to the other side. Twist. Tall, touch, and open. And turn. Take a breath, be tall. And open, and twist, tall, open. One more each, nice big turn. And open. Last one here, twist, tall, connect, long arms, open. Good, now the power step. The goal in this is to get the leg all the way up and around. To do that, we can do a little bit of a lean in and then pick up the leg to pull. Lean in. As I rock my way back, I'm going to bring the leg with me up over an imaginary hurdle. And lean, power, step. Lean in and open. Lean in and close. Rock in and open. Rock in, close. One more here. Now hold with one leg open. Go ahead and rock down and feel a little bit of stretch. Maybe it's in the inner thighs. Push back up. Now let's bring the other leg in. Rock and pull. Lean in and open. Lean in and around. Again, imagine a hurdle, and you're going to step right over the edge of the bathtub, or you're going to step right over the threshold of the car door. And lean and rock and lean, come back to center. So those are the 4 moves in sitting. We did them a little bit slowly to appreciate a little bit of stretch with those. Now we're going to just take it a little bit aerobic. I'm just checking my time. All right, we don't have a lot of time, so we're just gonna do this in 1 minute. So big hands, big flick, ready, set, power up for 10, power up, 9, and 8, big hands, flick, 7, and 6, and 5, and 4, and 3, flick, 2, and we're going to the rock right now. We're going to count backward by 7, starting at 100. Ready? 100, 93, 86, 79, 72, 65. Yeah, a little cognitive dual tasking, again, to add complexity. We're going to take it into twist, a little repetition here. I want a big hand clap at the edges and a big smack in the middle. Here we go, a big twist and twist and turn and twist. Good, couple more. Turn and twist. Nice vigor with this, keeping that tall spine all the way through. Good. Last one. We're going to count by 2s when we move the right leg. We're going to start moving with the right leg. We're going to count by 5s to step over with the left. So lean in, step right, count 2. Lean in, step left, 5. Lean, 10. Lean, step, 4. And 15. And 6. And 8. And 20. You get the idea. Adding a little bit of complexity with adding some dual tasking in different ways, adding some flicks, adding some looks, all of that adds to the repertoire. So to finish, if you want to do power moves, I'm going to encourage you to find a power move certified personal trainer or a certified therapist. It might be an occupational or a physical therapist. There's also ways for you to learn at home. Again, one of the things I love is that this is really trying to be open source and bring this to everybody who might need it. So there is a book available. It is $25.95 if you buy it at powerforlife.org. But on Amazon, it's $136.62 today when I checked. I will say that on Amazon, there's a Kindle version. I did get the Kindle version some time ago. And even though all the information's there, I really like the book to flip open and to have it spiral bound. You can lay it out ahead of you. You can keep referencing. I feel like the Kindle for that is a little too clunky. So if you're going to do it, powerforlife.org. And there's also about 100 different videos at YouTube that Power Moves have put up. You want to search Parkinson's Wellness Recovery in the YouTube search bar to get to them. If you type in PWR, you're going to get some interesting things that aren't this. Don't do it. But Exercise for Brain Change is their handle, and you can search Parkinson's Wellness Recovery to find videos there. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention, and really thank you for supporting MAPS. And we're open up for questions starting right now. All right. Thank you for joining us today. So, any questions? I've been watching the chat and didn't see any pop in there. No questions? Has anybody done these aside from the boxers I know who are in my program that I see in the audience? How often should you do power? So it's kind of personal. You should be exercising most days of the week, if not every day. And if you find that the power moves are really helping you to combat your rigidity because you're using them for the stretching component, then great. Then maybe that is sort of a daily flow that you get for yourself. If you're doing them for skill acquisition, it should probably be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days per week, preferably done after your aerobic activity. Again, so you have all of the chemicals in your brain that help you to sprout new neurons to make these skills, ground into your nervous system, to make these new movement habits, to make things easier. So most days of the week is going to be my answer. The interesting thing I think about, oh, did I freeze?
You did for a second.
Okay.
You might have to start over.
All right. So the question that I was answering was, how is power different than LSVT big? And I think the main difference here is that while they are still, power moves are still large amplitude and full body motions, there's a lot more variety in power moves than there is in LSVT big. The other thing is the way to practice is not as rigid. So you can pick the pieces you want from the power moves. While they're all really great, if you know that what you want to work on is the sit to stand, then maybe you're working more in the sitting part of that. If you know what you want to work on is the rolling in bed, then the floor work might be the power moves that you are really spending the lion's share of the time on. It's not like you're going to do 8 or 10 reps of everything all the time the rest of your life, the way that LSVT big is currently structured. So that's one of the big differences. You can kind of pick and choose the pieces you want and work at them as you need. Next question, how hard should you push when you're really stiff? That's a really good question, Marie. So it's going to depend in part on what you feel when you get to the edges of your mobility. So take something like the twist. When you get to the edge of that twist, when you get to the edge of that motion, are you feeling stretch? Are you feeling pain? And being able to feel the difference, you want to stay where you're feeling stretch, but I would say that you don't want to do any actions where that symptom feels more like pain or something you need to get away from. Feeling stretch, maybe you stay right at the edge and you slow your breath a little bit and you appreciate those feelings. Get out, get back in, see if that boundary of where you felt the stretch happened to move. Dynamic stretching, this is kind of all dynamic stretching if you pace it in a way where you take the move, hold it a breath, open it back out, get back in. If you want to hold it for a more static time, like 30 seconds, you can do that as well. And you should find that after several repetitions, those boundaries of where you find the stiffness should improve a little bit. But never work through sharp pain, never work through stabbing pain, numbness, or tingling. That's never okay. How many reps should you do? And this is another thing where, because this is open access, typically I'll set numbers like 8 or 12, depending on thing, but there is no magic healing perfect number for how many. So if you're having a very stiff and rigid day and you do your 8 and you're just starting to feel like you can get your toes over your nose, or you're just starting to feel like you can meet hand to hand, then you probably need to keep going with that for multiple more reps to get the best benefit out of it. Every day could be a little bit different for you and for your body. And so being able to work for a feeling of freedom is probably more important than working for a number as a goal. And if you're using this for skill acquisition, and say again, it's the sit to stand that you're really working on, then maybe you're looking for 6 good quality reps. And you don't count the first 3 or 4 that weren't good quality, but you start counting your reps once you feel like, okay, now I'm doing it. It's challenging, but I feel and look good doing this. Then that's maybe where you start counting from. But I don't have one answer for how many. You cut out again. Oh no. All right. I don't know where I cut out on that. So my apology. My apology. Any other questions?
Yes. What could I do to motivate my husband to do all these wonderful things? He's been through the Big and Loud program. He's been, even we were on TV about it because he was involved and loving it, I
Yeah.
guess, or at least showing up. But
Yeah.
do you have any good ideas for motivation? He does a lot of sitting, reading, and TV.
Yeah, and that's not going to drive any brain plasticity, is it? So
Right.
I would say that the main thing to motivate a person is you have to realize as an individual with Parkinson's that nobody can do the exercise piece for you. You can't be passive. So
Right.
that's the first realization, and hopefully he has that. Certainly you sound like you have it. The other thing is maybe you need to play a game with yourself where, I don't have to commit to a full hour of exercise every day, but I have to show up and I have to start my repertoire. When I was losing my weight, this was a game I played with myself all the time. When I would tell myself all day I was going to go to the gym after work, and then knowing that at the end of my workday I was probably going to be too tired. I made it a game where I didn't have to stay. I had to go, I had to get on whatever machine or start my workout and give myself 5 minutes. And if I really wanted to leave after 5 minutes, I always gave myself that permission. And the truth, the hardest part a lot of times is just getting started, And so maybe there's something there you can toy with.
Mhm. That sounds like helpful ideas.
Yeah.
Just getting started.
Some people are they like to schedule it like 9 a.m. is my time to go. Maybe a group exercise is a really good motivating thing because then it's scheduled, this day a week at this time, I show up. But if showing up ends up being the problem, then maybe building in that out without guilt and without, hardship assigned to it, maybe that's, an okay place at least to get started. Because honestly, once you get started with exercise, almost everybody feels better afterward. It's hard to get started, but very, very often, even when you're not feeling good about it, when you recheck in at the end of your workout, how am I feeling now? It's better than when you started. And it takes a few weeks of really regular practice to be able to recognize that well. And then that can become a motivating factor on its own.
I think you hit on a good point, and that was scheduling, because when he was going to Rock Steady Boxing every Wednesday, never missed. I loved it. Yeah. And then COVID changed a lot of things, but I think he's the type that scheduling the time. I like that.
Yeah. So a couple of options to work with, but it's nobody can do it for you. That's the thing everybody has to recognize.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I just want to say thank you so much to Patty. This has been a wonderful talk, a lot of information. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the event, we're going to be sending an email with all of the email addresses for the speakers today. So if you have additional questions, you can email them to Patty directly. It is time for us to head over to session number 3.
All right. Have a great day, guys.
This completes our current session. This meeting will end in 1 minute. Please proceed to meyerberg.org/LWP2020 and click Join Session of the next session. Thank you.